We are two Italian founders, but of a very rare breed because we come from Lithuania, where we are creating a startup called Polipo. It's a software development tool, and we will be talking about it at the end. It's about front-end engineering and the future of it. It's not about AI, so we can all breathe again. And yeah, my name is Giovanni, and here we have Massimo. Massimo is the CTO and co-founder of Polipo. I'm the CEO and co-founder. I'm going to leave you the floor. And
I prepare a slide with my info and not yours, but you can see Giovanni's here.
That's not a problem. I
that's
present
our
myself
CEO.
very well. I don't need slides. I am a living slide of myself, so they could have done a better work on the UI, but you know, unfortunately, they didn't have Polipo. You know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna take a seat here, I guess, Massimo.
Okay.
Or
okay.
maybe I can. I will sit in the. I will pretend I'm just a random participant. I will leave you there.
Okay. Thanks, Giovanni, for the introduction. So before even starting, I'm gonna show like something I found on Reddit a few days ago that I found so funny. So I just want to share it with you. Somebody's asking if Sam Altman is so confident about AGI this year. Why are they hiring front-end devs? Actually, if you go to the link, it mentions that they are paying those devs $350K a year, and the most voted reply was because even ASI, artificial super intelligent, finds CSS annoying, and then there was that GIF with CSS. So yeah, I wanted to share with you. Okay, so what about this talk? I want to start a discussion about CSS, more on the philosophical side. Actually, like while preparing this talk, I realized that this part was not the most exciting. I need it anyway, so I'm going to talk a little bit about CSS in a general sense. And then in the second part, I will show the product we are working on, which is also the reason why we got interested in this. Okay, so let's see. There are so many ways to write CSS. This is just a few logos. There are probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 slides like this that you could put together with all of the logos of technology that you can use to, at the end of the day, produce CSS. And this is a framework I came up with in my mind to see what are the benefits of one tool with respect to the other. I'm considering these 3 benefits. So one of them is expressivity, and by that I mean how easy it is to use the power of CSS. CSS is a very powerful technology. There are so many things you can do, variables, expressions, so many different properties. So expressivity is how easy it is to use this power. Abstraction is about how can I build something like a component that has some CSS and then reuse it. And editability is about how easy it is if I just need to make a change to my design, let's say a color or move something around in your page, how easy it is. Do I have to do some extra steps and go through like a long process just to change something? So very quickly, I'm gonna try and place those technologies, those logos in this diagram. So first one is if you just write your CSS manually. CSS is a language, you can just write it as is. And in this case, we have the maximum expressivity, but it's kind of difficult for abstraction editability. Abstraction, why? Because if you're building a component and you have a separate style sheet and then you want to reuse the component, well, it's not clear if you want to change something, the style of the component, it can be complicated. Then we have frameworks like Bootstrap or Material UI. They are all about abstractions. You have fully made component that you can reuse. But when you want to use something specific on CSS, like maybe animations, maybe some advanced feature, they kind of go one against the other. Then you have CSS in JS. I think it's about in the middle. And Tailwind, this is like probably the most used technology for CSS nowadays. And I think one of the reasons is that it's pretty balanced in this triangle. So you can use like advanced feature of CSS. It's easy to use it inside your components. It's not too complicated. If you want to make a change, you just go to that part. Yeah, so these are all of them together, and this is the tool we are building in our company. It's called Polypo, and well, it's not a solution that like solves all the problem. It's just one that focuses much more on one aspect of this triangle, not the other two. So it's going to be less about using CSS in a very expressive way to build complex stuff, less about abstraction, so like components, and more like making it as easy as possible to make changes to a page. Okay, so what is this technology we are building? I hope I didn't bore you too much with the introduction. I'm going to get into the what we are working on for the last year. Yes, 9 months, maybe more if you count also like preparatory work before. So Polypo is a Figma compiler.
Decided to come closer. I don't know. I think this moment is more
here.
important and interesting.
Thank you, Giovanni.
Soon we're gonna demo it. So
moral
like,
support. This is the first time we talk about this publicly in front of people, right?
We never spoke publicly about this. We're actually ashamed of, like.
So why did we build Polypo? Because like I myself personally, I realized that while doing front-end work, I would spend too much time with this stuff, and this is like the CSS properties that are more boring, I would say. So, well, there are some interesting ways you could use some of them, but most of the time I would spend
part-time I work for a consumer intelligence company that also works for Polypo, so I'm going to ask, do you relate with what he said? Who can relate in this room? Like, do you think that this is a lot of your work as front-end engineers? Do you consider this to be more boring, repetitive part of your work? Yes, no? Some, okay. I see some hands. Okay. Carry on. I just...
Giovanni is not a developer.
No,
you probably have figured that out
I'm
already.
completely not. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. I have many talents, but not this one. Carry on. Well, you cannot have it all. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what we built is a compiler for CSS. So going back to the title of this talk, what is CSS? Is it like a language that you write, or is it something that's generated? Well, it depends, and it depends on the tool that you use. We at Polypo, we are exploring the extreme approach where we built a compiler that generates CSS from Figma designs. Now, I think like most front-end developers have to deal with Figma designs. Is one of the technology that's most used by designers. So I just realized I didn't mention Figma in this slide, but Figma is the input. So you probably are wondering what's the difference between tools that take Figma and generate code for me. Why are you calling this a compiler and not like a AI code generator or just a code generator? So these are the main differences. The code that we generate, the CSS that we generate, is not meant to be edited. So it's not like source code that you can work on. And the idea is that, of course, if you just generate CSS, it's not a full product. You have to add more stuff. So the logic, which could be in the form of like React components, state, and so on, is added separately, and it's not mixed with the layout and the CSS. And also you can add additional CSS, but again, this is separate from what is generated, and the additional CSS could be done with Tailwind or any other technology. Our compiler is dumb, and by dumb I mean it doesn't try to figure out the intention of the designer in Figma. So there's no AI, and there's also no like magic that tries to figure out that here the designer actually meant this to be a drop down or something. All of this stuff is left to the front-end developers. But the other side of the coin is that we try to make something that's always correct. So every time you have a design that follows certain rules, you will get some code that does exactly what you expect from it. And finally, the compiler runs on your computer and also is real time. Well, yeah, this is the architecture. I don't know if you can see it, but the idea is that you start with Figma. Figma is like part of your code, we could say, of your code base. And then you write some React, some configuration, and what you do with Polypo, which is that logo there, you can generate some HTML, CSS, and images that they are combined inside your code base to have your product. Okay, so I think we still have plenty of time, which is what I wanted. I want to show this technology to you. I hope you will find it interesting. It's definitely something new. Yeah, we don't get too much into the detail, but that's how you would connect a Figma layout. This is a very basic example of a React code that you would write to connect to Figma. But there's no point in these slides, actually, because I want to show it. So there we are.
I hear in the room there are a million questions that are building up, but don't worry, like there will be the Q&A, and then we will go for drinks, and we are more than happy to not only like get questions, but plainly argue or discuss, disagree, agree, hug each other, whatever in the middle. So, yeah.
Okay, so you can see my screen. I'm gonna make it a bit bigger. I prepared this very basic app using Vite. You can recognize some of the React code. And okay, the app is running now. We have the Vite server here, and then we have Polypo server running in this terminal. And this is the app. It's very basic. It's just a counter. I can click, and it does that. But the design is connected with Figma. So, for example, let's say I want to make this button, I don't know, another color. I just go there. Wait. I cannot use Figma, sorry. Fill, there you go. Yeah. Okay, now it's working. So I can change the color of the button, and as you see, it's real time. Or maybe I just want to drag it around. Make the border thicker, or maybe add some crazy shadows. It's coming, it's coming. I think he asked for some layout magic. Yeah, so this is all cool for a demo, but that's a good point. Like for real applications, you would you need like a layout that reacts to the size of the screen. So we're gonna do that. Actually, before we do that, I'm gonna try a design that I just copy and pasted from a template, just to see what the issues are with this tool. It's not always working perfectly. So I want to change the name here and call this one home. So there we have it. So it's not perfectly identical because, for example, the fonts are different. But like imagine like all of the work you need to create a front end like this. This is, well, I cannot say it's automated because this example doesn't use auto layout with Figma, so you probably noticed that the layout doesn't react to the screen. But the point is, as I said, we are making a compiler which is dumb, so it's not trying to figure out what it should do with the screen resize. It's just doing the same thing as Figma. So here, if I resize this, as you see in Figma, it doesn't react. So the generated CSS does the same thing. Okay, let's make something more interesting again. I'm gonna make another frame. Set up auto layout, call it home again. Then adding some something inside. Oh, come on. Okay. Now I use auto layout here. Almost there. There we have it. Maybe I'm gonna scale it back a little bit. Okay, so there we have it. So Figma has its own layout engine. It's called auto layout. Some designers like it, some designers don't like it. But to use Polypo, you have to use it. So let's make it like, for example, wrapping. There we have it. So you see in Figma, it's wrapping, but here it's not because the page is it's large enough. If I make more, then as you see, it's like reacting to the size of the screen. Okay, this was just a demo. Yeah. I hope you find it interesting, and yeah, please ask questions.
Questions if you have. Yeah.
What are you thinking? Yeah.
How do we deal with accessibility?
That's a very good question. So what about accessibility? Okay, Polypo, what it does is just generate CSS and some markup template. This markup template, when it's rendered, is just going to be a bunch of divs. So of course, this is not great for accessibility, for SEO. There are many issues with that. But the point is that you can always go to the code and customize anything. So let's say I want this one. I'm going to make it red. Wait, fill red. There it is. If I want this to be a button in HTML, I just have to give it a name wait.
Oh, something happened. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it went back.
Good.
So let's say I want to make it a button. I just give it a name, button. Then I can refer to it from the code. It's already there. And now, if I inspect this this element.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
no problem.
I think it's my. Okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Life happens. All good.
So yeah, now it's a button you can see from the.
So it generates some HTML that compiles to the stuff that you see in the browser, but how do I see in the code? I see that you still have the button and the counter there. Where is the layer that we see in the browser? Can you demo that, please? Like, what do we actually see? It's like a bunch of things. Divs that are. I don't see them in the code.
These divs.
Yeah, but where are they in the VS Code, in the editor, in the IDE?
They are in Figma. They're coming from Figma. Ah, right. And in VS Code, you don't see them because you don't need to override all of the layers. Yeah. So anything that you don't mention here, it's just going to be rendered as a plain div. So all of these, they have a name. The name is just whatever Figma decided to put. and they are just rendered as div by this React Figma component. Yeah, so if you want something not to be a div, if you want it to be something different, then you add it. Yeah?
Or you integrate dynamic data that comes in and you have to map over and display stuff.
Yeah, so if the dynamic data is like a tree
Cards, for example.
card, yeah. So what you can do is you can, this is just React, right? So I just created a single component using this, but I could create multiple components with different layouts, and you can also render those components inside of it. So let's see if I manage to make a very quick example. I'm gonna make an item, nothing here, just an item. And then I go array.from okay. So now I'm just rendering a list items. Then I can remove all of them. Remove the auto layout, leave the button here in the middle, and then I'm gonna add another container which is items, and it's gonna be auto layout with a stroke and an example item with a stroke. Okay. Okay, I need to create the layout for that very quickly. Item, I'm not gonna change anything here. Let's see if it's working now. Yeah, well, they are probably, they are empty divs because I haven't designed them. I'm gonna design. It's gonna take just one more second. An item here, and we are gonna fill it with something like this. Okay, so I created another layout, very basic, and then I created another component here in React, and now I can, every time I click on the button, you see an item is added to the list. Now, of course, this is very basic, but you can imagine that you could connect, strings and numbers and dynamic list, and yeah, that's it. Yeah.
First of my questions, how do you define multiple interactive states of the same component?
Wow, this is also amazing question. So that was actually one of the hardest challenge, and so some of those states you most likely want them to map to CSS state. For example, you want something on smaller screens and something else on larger screens, or
I didn't mean that. I meant hover.
Hover, that's another example. Yeah, this is another example. So we have a sort of a DSL, so a language, and it's in this file here, Polypo, that I showed before. So for example, what I can do is if something is hover, I could change the place where I take it from Figma, like a completely different element. So I'm gonna do it now, page1/hov, item hover. Now I go here, make a copy, I call it item hover, and I make it green. There we go. So if I click on the button, now we should see that when you hover something.
Can you show what happens to the nodes when you hover? Is it a different node now, or is it just CSS changing?
It's just CSS. So you see that this is 3 nodes. So what Polypo does is it compiles to CSS using selectors. So let's see if I can see the full CSS for this. It's in this style element. Okay, I'm gonna make it. So this is the CSS we generated in this case. There is a base CSS with just the size, and well, there's this transform origin that we probably don't need. Background color and clip, just because it was set to clip content here. I can actually remove it, and now there's no more clip. Well, here as well. There it is. And yeah, there is some extra CSS just for the hover state. Now, this is probably not the way a developer would write it. You would probably just write hover instead of where hover. The reason why it's done like this, it's because of specificity. Now, CSS has got all of these specificity rules that, for me, is very hard to wrap my head around specificity, especially if you combine it with media queries and order of the elements and like complicated selector. So this is just a trick to make sure that specificity doesn't play a role, because where always have a specificity of 0.
Any other question?
So the ideal world scenario would be basically that we have some kind of a component system that the person who created it has it given all the components names that are compatible with the corresponding HTML tags, for example, buttons, inputs, forms, text arrays, and so forth. All the like forms and everything, and that would be like a kind of a bit of an overhead for the designer. But in the result, you don't ideally you wouldn't have to customize anything on the HTML side. It would generate like the correct HTML tags, like with this correct semantics and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Actually, we are working on a component system based on ShadCN. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you had experience with it. And it's complicated, you know, working with Polypo and creating a design system with components. This doesn't make it particularly easier, but that's because all the time creating like a component system from scratch is complicated if you have to think about accessibility and, you know, even like interacting with it with your keyboards and all of the cases. So we are doing this work internally to...
Actually, yeah, if I can expand a bit more on that, like we are extracting from this technology 2 use cases on which we are developing a little bit more advanced solutions. One is we are developing a Shopify e-commerce based on Hydrogen, which is the proprietary framework of Shopify for custom e-commerce, for headless e-commerces. And it's basically React, so it's React compatible, we can say. And the other is, as Massimo told, like a design system that enables you to use this technology, but build it having building blocks that are compatible with it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I can actually show it later if we have extra time, design system.
Yeah.
But now maybe there's other question.
Maybe there are other questions.
Yeah.
Why don't you have a demo where you show multiple layers of interaction of components, inside components, with some real layouts, with some real designs that have interactive states, that have layouts that adjust? Why I'm asking this, because it's hard to wrap my head around what is actually working here, because it's too abstract and it's too simple. And I'll immediately have questions whether you can scale or not, whether the approach even scales.
That's a totally valid question, and like this technology is really new.
Yeah,
we are working on stuff.
We'll be very transparent.
I can show
it. This is the priority. Like we want to show as much as possible like the capabilities of this technology, and we are working on creating really like we can say a software house, building up examples showing the possibilities of this technology.
There are many things we still have to figure out as a business. For the moment, I just want to share with you like the excitement that I have because like I built this for me because I found myself, doing the same task over and over again, mixed with other tasks that were actually interesting. And I wanted to like automate away the boring part. Like you get a layout and you have to go there, count the pixels, and copy and paste the colors and this kind of stuff. So in terms of like more complicated, I can show you our website. I know it's like, it's our website. So I mean, it's nothing too special, but like, I designed this myself, so it probably doesn't look great, but it's got a little bit of layout. There is like some responsiveness. As you see, it switches from like left to right, right to left, and there is like some.
There is a blog connected with Sanity, though.
Oh yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
Is there a Figma for it?
Yes,
indeed.
I can show you. I was not prepared for this.
I didn't pay you for this question, right? You just.
I'm very happy to.
You look like the marketing stunt. Like, is there a Figma for? Yes, indeed. Yeah, sure, it is.
There it is. The Figma is not that polished because it's not meant for a presentation, but totally, yeah. This is the design, and there is almost nothing. I can show you the code actually. So yeah, this design has got two different layouts. So it's a component with two variants, and I'm using variants and components because it's convenient to make changes on two separate variants. So if I let's say if I want to change the color of this button, I can press Q, and now I get multi-editing. And if I change something here, it changes to the other one. Now, of course, this is not connected to the live website. To publish something live, you just export it. You get your CSS file on your local machine.
It's a machine-hosted development tool.
And then this is hosted on Vercel. Checking the time.
We can go on for a little while.
You're gonna tell me, okay.
Thomas is gonna chop our heads when we go off. I'm joking.
Yeah, the code maybe. Give me just a second. Control R, polypo, close all, site / page.tsx. There it is. So essentially for the home page, I just referenced this layout, which is defined in another file. And then I'm just setting tags where I need to. So headline, I want it to be an H1. Then sections with an ID, so I can link to a specific section. The video is just a reference to YouTube. And then there are some animations with motion. I just learned about motion a week ago. So I immediately changed the website to add those animations. I was pretty surprised that I managed to make it work without too much hassle. So by just doing this essentially. So yeah, this is how we built the website.
Okay, I think we can wrap it up, right?
Or,
we can come back to the presentation and show our informations if you want. You can follow us. You can. That's our website. For everybody involved here, if you want to more than try it and get our support and get your ideas out there, you can write an email to us and reference this meeting, like I've seen you there, and we would be happy to. We'll be happy to talk, and to support you. What I wanted to say is that I finish up. I'm Italian, but I live in Lithuania for 8 years, so I'm very concise. This technology is very new, and it's very disruptive. So
we don't know what's going to happen.
We don't know what's going to happen.
It depends on.
And as I say, as I like to say, reality is just temporary. So we are trying to put our dent in how we see things. If you related to it in any way, we're happy. We gave you an idea to play with. So thank you.
Thank you.